Well, since the weekend is over, today's episode is going to be a very interesting. Now, as you know, this past Saturday we did have New Japan Strong with the final week of Nemesis, and then of course we got the WWE Royal Rumble, which I felt I need to make up for those two. But however, I'm also going to cap this off with, of course, Beyond Wrestling with Miight Snow, which features a lot of good matches, but especially the main event that features a tag team, the Best Bros versus the main event, Midas Black and Jay Lyons. And of course, we cannot forget we got some news updates to share what's been going on in the world of pro wrestling. So, let's get ready for another episode of the Deleted Wrestle Zone.
Are you ready? Get up, get up! 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 Get up, get up!
Welcome, everybody, to the Deleted Wrestle Zone, all things that is pro wrestling with AEW, NXT, New Japan Pro Wrestling, Impact Wrestling, the National Wrestling Alliance, various promotions, wrestlers, matches, and championships. I am your host, J Rod here. So, let's begin with New Japan Strong with the final week of Nemesis. As you know, we're getting closer and closer to Battle of the Valley in San Jose, California, which is going to be a killer event. But first things first, let's get through this one. Our opening match, we have Keita taking on All Heart Blake Christian. Now, we have seen Blake Christian made several appearances in New Japan Strong in the upcoming times we've seen him, but it was a pretty good match. I enjoyed it. It was really, and I don't think there was no story built up, but it just built up, the wrestling character that we know of Blake Christian. He was the one who picked up the win by applying the infamous stomp. 1, 2, 3. It was over right from there. Now, this one, I have to say, our next match is a classic for me because we have two wrestlers who most likely have interacted in the past because they're both luchadors and they might have been in the same promotion before. We're talking about Misterioso versus the uh, Príncipe de la Plata, Místico. Now, before anybody asks me this question, some of you may ask, wait a minute, is Místico the guy who played Sin Cara? Truth to be told, he was the very original one when he first left. He's the one. But when he returned back to Mexico, he went by another name, Caristico, because the Místico name was being used by someone you guys already know who currently is making appearances in AEW. I'm talking about Tralistico. So I'll be doing a discussion about that because I feel some people may be a little confused about the names, how they're being used. But yes, so I have to say Mystico, he is one of my absolute favorites watching Lucha Libre like from years ago. I mean, he was like to me like a new version of Santo, who was known as um Santo el Mascarado de Plata, the silver the silver mask or something like that. So it was like similar like that. But I felt like nothing has changed with Mystico, regardless of the things he's been through, you know, going to WWE, then coming back to Mexico and doing this and that. But it was a pretty good match from both. I mean, Mystico put everything that he had to put away Mysterioso, but Mysterioso refuses to stay down because he knows he's not dealing with a slouch. He's dealing with a guy who's been there and done that. But it took only one particular move for Mystico to put away Mysterioso, and that is none other than La Mystica submission. More, it's like a Fujiwara armbar that forces him to tap out. So I think it was a pretty good match. I think this one and the main event are the most interesting ones for me. Now, our main event is the Strong Openweight Championship. This was set upon a while back by Peter Avalon, who called out Fred Rosser saying that he wants to challenge him for the Strong Openweight title. And then, of course, he decided to attack him from behind. But of course, Peter Avalon was not going to let Fred Rosser get into him. He was doing everything to get away with him. But it took one submission for Fred Rosser to put away Peter Avalon. And it's like a applying the snare trap that Jungle Boy would use, but you mix it with the crossface chicken wing. That was very I don't know what they call that, but that was a very effective submission for Fred Rosser to retain the title. However, it appears the New Japan matchmakers have a perfect opponent for him at Battle of the Valley. And that is they put him that he will be facing against none other than Kenta. So that's going to be a very interesting match. And of course, he called him out, said his piece, kept it short and sweet. So I don't know what Kenta would think in his head about Fred Rosser, but he will definitely want to take that title away from him because that's what Kenta is. He would do anything in his power to get his title. Now he did that with the IWGP US title. Now, in regards to New Japan Strong, I want to make this clear because this was the last show because there's some been developments that the Nemesis will be the last one of the US shows for the time being because let me pull out the info that I gathered. Apparently this is something that Tanahashi has spoken about. So Tanahashi talked about this before. He said that there was going to be some changes with this show. This is what, of course, said by Tamaki Obari, the president of New Japan. He says, "Thank you for watching and supporting New Japan Strong over the years. It was adapted to an environment changes since inception. We soon will be reborn in a new form." So basically, they're not going away just yet. They're just kind of like making some changes. Basically, it's how can I put this in terms? Kind of like you're trying to make it better than ever was. Now, keep in mind, New Japan Strong did not start out uh, great. I mean, it did had some good matches, but because we were still dealing with the pandemic, it kind of put that into perspective. But from what's going on, there's going to be two things that's going to take place. For the Battle in the Valley, which is going to be streamed on Fight TV, it's going to be Strong Live. So it's going to be like New Japan Strong Live, and then of course there's the cards that will be they're going to have this thing called the Strong on Demand, where the cards will be released on demand weekly. So basically, they're going to have two different type of brandings or something like to keep it tabs of the US shows. So don't know what else they're gonna put in, but we are gonna have the Battle of the in the Valley on February 18th. I think that's the one. So there's gonna be a dual format from what I'm doing. So there's two things they're gonna be doing. So gotta keep an eye on that, folks. So just letting you guys know since this is related to this topic. So I think that's pretty much it right now with New Japan Strong. I believe it's time to move on to WWE's Royal Rumble. Now, before I proceed, some of you may ask, AJ Rod, you don't normally talk about this type of stuff with WWE, only NXT and NXT Level Up. Yeah, I do, but the thing is, with Raw and SmackDown, I got a little bored with it. We keep saying the same old things over and over, but I will do the best of my ability to keep up with the bigger pay-per-views like the Rumble and WrestleMania and so on and so on. But let's get to the Royal Rumble first. Now, it opened up with the men's Royal Rumble. I have to say I was a bit more like, okay, how is this going to go? But I was basically surprised that Gunther was going to be number one because hey, the guy's a fighting warrior. He I have to say it was a pretty good opening, but at the same time, his opponent that he was going to start out with is someone who we all know, Castle Attack or something like that back last year. Sheamus, I have to say that perfectly. I have to say you started out great with that. Of course, I did enjoy a lot of the wrestlers that showed up. Like, of course we did saw the entirety of Judgment Day being there as well. We did see the New Day. I think some people did not like the fact how Kofi was eliminated because there were certain moments where they mentioned that Kofi's foot was still lying around on top of something, but I don't know if that counted because that's always been because we have seen Kofi Kingston over the years how he miraculously always finds a way to stay in in the thing, But that's okay. But I'm sure that's probably a mistake WWE made. We did see wrestlers like Edge who comes out to deal with the Judgment Day. He took out both Finn Balor and Damian Priest, and of course he got eliminated, leaving Dominic all by himself. And then they took the fight outside. Then of course Rhea Ripley shows up until she got speared by Beth Phoenix, which is like the ghost of Christmas past has come back. And of course we saw the alliance between Braun Strowman and Ricochet. But I think the one moment with Ricochet and Logan Paul was like, what the hell was that all about? I don't know what was that. People were even booing for Logan Paul, and it makes a whole lot of sense. But of course, the final entrant, it was not a bit of surprise because I know there's been speculations by various people on Twitter talking about this that Cody was going to be the last and possibly the winner. And I think it went pretty well because I did like how because the commentators didn't make Michael Cole didn't made a good point. They never had in history where the last two competitors are the first entrant and the last entrant. That's never happened. I think this is one of those rare occurrences that we normally see. And I think this is one of them. And I think I liked how this one ended. Now, I know many fans will probably say Gunther should have won it. But I know there were those that are probably saying Cody should win it because this is a long time coming because of the history that he had with WWE. And that kind of sets it in. And I get it, and I get it. I'm not going to argue or make an opinion. I mean, everybody has a right to their opinions. I mean, that's how it goes. But it was Cody who picked up the win onto Gunther and win the Royal Rumble, and he's on his way to WrestleMania. But now the obvious question is, which title will he take? Because the rule of thumb here is, the Royal Rumble doesn't specify which title he should go for. Should he go for the Universal title or the WWE title? But if I was a betting man, I would say he will probably go for the WWE title because rumors are speculating that he will bring back the Eagle Championship. If you guys remember the classic titles that we remember back in the day. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why we're going to see that. Now, moving on. The Black Pitch match between LA Knight and Bray Wyatt. Now, I know many fans have been waiting for this match to happen, but to be honest with you, I mean, the Pitch Black concept was pretty good. I've seen this type of match before where you can see the glow. I saw that in AAA years ago. I thought that was pretty cool. But I thought the same thing here, but I felt the match itself between LA Knight and Bray Wyatt was like too short to go on. I thought they might have gone out maybe for 15 minutes or so, but no, it didn't. It just ended like very shorter. And not to mention the post match. Well, Bray Wyatt did finish off LA Knight with the Sister Abigail as expected, but the post match, Bray continues on the attack on LA Knight until Uncle Howdy showed up. I just don't know what was that all about, but I have to say, I mean, look, the concept was great. I like how it's glow in the dark, pretty cool. I liked it, but the match itself, the way it was presented, was something that kind of threw me off. I mean, that's my opinion. I don't know about you guys. If you guys, how do you felt about it? But yeah, so let's talk about more. Now let's keep moving on. Our next match is a championship match. We have the WWE Raw Women's Title, Alexa Bliss versus Bianca Belair. Pretty good match. Not the best, but I felt that somehow this was gonna end with Bianca Belair winning the match. It was like I think they're building along like a bit of a long term story because many of us are speculating who was gonna win the Royal Rumble. I think that's kind of made a lot more sense. But in this case, it was it was Bianca Belair that won the match. However, we did see the some cryptic message coming from Bray Wyatt all the way to Alexa Bliss at the post match. We could see a reuniting team that we have remembered. So we just gotta wait and see. Now our next Royal Rumble is the women's. Now our opening competitors is Rhea Ripley and then of course Liv Morgan. Now Liv Morgan requested, according to Michael Cole, that she wanted to be number one, but they gave her number two. Now I don't see any problems with that. I mean, it felt like okay, you're starting the whole match just like that, and of course, just like what we saw with Judgment Day, we did see that with Damage Control try to ensure that many of the wrestlers were going to be out. We did see wrestlers from NXT such as Indy Hartwell, Roxanne Perez, our current NXT Women's Champion, and of course Zoe Starks. I have to say it was a pretty good moment. We did see Michelle McCool being there, which was awesome. Um, who else did we see? We saw Natalia come back, um, Tamina, Nia Jax. But of course, I think that one that really stood out for me is Asuka taking back her Kana character. If you guys know that whole history with her, she had like a different side to her back in Japan with her face paint. I thought that was great to see that. I think people were expecting that, and I think it was really fun. But I think, but also somebody probably asked, how is Damage Plan were eliminated? Simple. They got eliminated thanks to Io and Dakota were eliminated by Becky Lynch, but it was I forgot who eliminated Bailey, but that war between those guys continued on. But last, but I think we could say by the ending of this whole thing, it did went to a very interesting moment where we did see Rhea Ripley and Liv Morgan, who are two of the competitors who started the show. Another rare occurrence. When was the last time we saw someone from the who started out 1 and 2 in the Rumble State of Power? And I think that sets it. And of course, Rhea Ripley played the smart game by eliminating Liv Morgan, becoming the next challenger. So I think it doesn't take any genius that we're going to see, of course, that Rhea Ripley will challenge Bianca Belair. If you guys know their history, they knew each other back in NXT. They were really good friends. And of course, I think this is another storytelling build up that we've been expecting because there was a moment where months ago, Rhea Ripley and Bianca Belair kind of bump into each other. They glazed at each other, and Ripley looked at what she had, which is the title. And I think that's I think a good storytelling that was building up. Now, our main event, it did feature, of course, the undisputed champion Roman Reigns taking on Kevin Owens. Now, you probably know this is how it's going to end. There was the moment where Sami Zayn was being forced to watch how Kevin Owens was getting beat up and all this stuff. But I think it does tell another storytelling because many fans have talked about this over social media recently. But of course, it was the spear to put away Kevin Owens. But one thing that led is, of course, Sami Zayn just brutally whacked Roman Reigns with the chair and he got beat up, and Jey Uso just walked out. And I think, I don't know exactly, I think people are saying, is this the time where the bloodline are now being dismantled? That's something I cannot talk about until I see the full picture in the storytelling. But did stated that Jey Uso is out of the bloodline, so that kind of sets in. So we'll see what happens then. As for the Rumble, what do I think? Okay, the pitch black thing that kind of threw me off a bit. I mean the concept was great, I liked it, but the match itself was not that good for me. The Raw Women's yeah. I have to say the competitors for both men's and the women's Rumbles, the winners, I'm definitely cool with the idea. I'm definitely down. The Raw's women's title, uh, but I think the one with Roman Reigns and Kevin Owens was pretty good. But the post match is the one that kind of got me like talking a lot. So we'll just see what happens in the upcoming weeks. Now, as I said, I don't normally watch Raw or SmackDown, but I will keep apprised to those. So I hope everybody enjoys that. So let's do our final show, Beyond Wrestling Miight Snow. Okay, our final review, we have Beyond Wrestling with Miight Snow. Now, this is you can see for an hour on YouTube if you guys are interested. But the only reason I was interested in watching this because of the main event, Best Bros versus the main event. So we'll get to that. Now, our opening match, we have Ichiban taking on Mortar. Now, I don't know much about Mortar. I have seen Ichiban a few times. Seems like he was the fan favorites by many people because if you guys know, Ichiban means number one. And I have to say, it was a pretty good one. But what I did like is Motar's a much bigger individual than Ichiban. You probably would think, okay, strength by Motar will be a factor into this. But it took only a somewhat of a flatliner onto by Ichiban to Motar to pick up the win. So pretty good. I liked it. Next up, we have Rex Lawless taking on Aaron Rourke. I have to say, very interesting one because Rex Lawless looks more like the kind of guy who's just gonna beat the crap out of you. And then you got Aaron Rourke, who, not to be disrespectful, had that little gayish vibe in order to stay to be the guy. But I think it kind of tells a pretty good, interesting story because who knows what this guy would have done in the ring, but he somehow was able to counter certain moves until he applied the code red onto Rex Lawless to win the match. And I think Rex was surprised or couldn't believe that he lost in the fashion. I mean, some wrestlers can be a bit more clever than they look, and I think Aaron Rourke is that guy who played it very carefully. Excuse me. Next up, they're saying these two guys are similar. They have a similar styles. Desmond Cole versus Chris Bradley, and I can see why they have a bit of a unique style to themselves, but similar in certain ways, kind of like throwing a breakdancing into wrestling, that sort of thing. And I thought it was like very interesting to see. But I wasn't too much sold on it just yet. But it was a pretty good match. It took only a swanton bomb by Desmond Cole to put away Chris Bradley. 1, 2, 3, just like that. It is done. Now, our next match, we have Ryan Clancy taking on Brad Hollister. Don't know who these two guys are, but this match was pretty much like going in different directions the way it went. They took the match even outside of the ring, even though they're supposed to take it in the ring. So the ref called out a double count out once they reached the 10 count, and they continue taking the fight outside. Now, our next match, this is my favorite, the Best Bros versus the main event. The Balinaki Meishuga says that, they are the best circus team in town, and I thought this is going to be fun. And I think that says it all, and I think I didn't know that the main event in Beyond Wrestling were the heel group in Beyond Wrestling, and I thought it was a pretty good one, and I thought it was in the back of my mind, I was thinking, okay, the main event's probably gonna win this one, but it took a lot of moments for these guys to put away the main event because it took only 2 tries to apply the dolphin press onto one of them. It kind of did. Of course, main event's buddy Pedro, whatever his name is, was watching on, but it took another dolphin onto Midas Black for the Best Bros to win the match. Now Pedro did not like it, so they attacked Balinaki and they made sure to watch while they beat the crap out of him. But out of nowhere, Rex Lawless shows up, gives Balinaki and sure the helping hand, while main event and Pedro ran to the hills. So I think this show was pretty good, but like I said, I wanted to see the Best Bro versus the main event. I thought that was a pretty good show. I enjoyed it. So I think that's pretty much it. So let's move on with our lasting news updates. Okay, so welcome to our news updates. Now, for those who didn't know about this or not, during the Royal Rumble, there's been reports saying that Ricky Starks, our current AEW star, was spotted at the backstage of WWE. Now, before you say anything, no, guys, he's not there just to. He's there to give Cody Rhodes support. They're really good friends. If you guys know this, Cody had a very strong interest in Ricky Starks when he first arrived in AEW, and I think that sets all. And I think Ricky thought maybe paying him paying him gratitude for that, for him to be there. And I think that's pretty good. I mean, it's not the first time where we see stars from another promotion come by to WWE to just hang out and all this, or they have friends or families that are opposite sides. I mean, we've seen that with Aaron Spears and Cass Lee before Cass Lee was released from WWE, and I think that sets it all. But I'm okay with the idea, so let's just leave it as that. Two things came in from the Dramatic DDT Twitter page regards of DDT. Judgment 2023 will take place on the 21st of March. We're gonna have Samurai del Sol, formerly known as Calistico, will be taking on Yuki Inoue. Now, I'm not sure if this relates to the DDT Universal title, but I'll find out soon enough. But here's an interesting part. After for one of the recent events, DDT and Shu Pro Wrestling did a little responded to the 200 reported there was 220 chops made by Kazusada Iguchi and Yuji Inoue. I'm like, who's counting the chops here? I mean, I'm surprised that anybody counted the chops. I'm just, wow. 220. I mean, that thing would turn your freaking chest into red. Wow. But yeah. Now going back to a recent development taking place on the Unagi Sayaka watch recently. As you know, Unagi Sayaka will be in a tag match on Pro Wrestling Zero in March. However, that particular match, from what I discovered, it was a reverse nomination by none other than Jungle Kiona. Jungle Kiona was the one who requested this match. Now, I wondered, why would Jungle Kiona do that? Now, there are those who are speculating. Does it have to do with the colorings in Unagi's cheeks? Because Jungle Kiona does that too. I don't know, but it seems like it's gonna happen. So basically, the general manager of Pro Wrestling 01 granted this match to happen. So, so we'll see what happens then. WrestlePro has announced for their upcoming event, WrestlePro Fest in Rahway, New Jersey. Joey Janela will be making his return to the promotion. Now, speaking of WrestlePro, there are shows they normally do a lot in Alaska. It's most specifically in Anchorage. For the Super Show that took place in April, it was announced that it's going to have the WrestlePro Alaska Championship will be put on the line in a four-way match. We have Bobby Wayward, the current champion. He takes on Jay Lethal, Iceberg Dion Russman, and Banjon's badass. I can't pronounce that guy's name, but yeah. So Jay Lethal will be making his way to Alaska for this particular show. So it's gonna be fun. Now, two things have come across with Yoshi Wrestler from Tokyo Pro Wrestling, Miyu Yamashita. Apparently, Dark Pearusu made an interview with her recently, and here's what she had to say. Let me put it out. Question: Mercedes Moné and you have been both said you would like to wrestle sometime soon. What interests you about a match with her? And this is what she said. Of course, I want to fight. I recently trained with her and we faced each other for wrestling practice. It wasn't a match, but felt that way. So I would probably explore it a match it were to happen. I love how professional wrestling is stoic she is. You can feel the attention to detail in every movement. Who in AEW like to face in the near future? She responded, Hikaru Shida and Marina Shafir. I would like to play with Marina Shafir under the UWF rules. I like that. Next question. What match from your career you're most proud of? She responded, this is the match against Meiko Satomura. I felt despair during the match, but it was a match that made me feel strongly in my heart and that I wanted to become stronger. Final question. Besides yourself, who do you believe has the best strikes in pro wrestling today? Would you like to have a match with them? It's a difficult question because you can't compare strikings because it really depends on the user of the same name technique. But I would venture to say Mike Bailey one of is the one who I would like to fight. I would like to fight him. Wow. So basically, she says she would like to have a match with Mercedes Monet. I highly doubt it could happen in Japan due to the fact that she's with Bushiraod and all that. I would say the only logical place that could happen is possibly in an AEW ring or do a self-produced show. I don't know, but yeah. But as for her doing a UWF rules with Marina Shafir, I have to say that's a fine idea. I wouldn't be surprised if she has to travel to Japan for that. Of course, her with Meiko Satomura, I didn't know about that one. And this, but also with Mike Bailey, that's a good one. Now, in relation to Miyu Yamashita, it was announced by West Coast Pro that Miyu Yamashita will be making her debut with the promotion on April 7th in San Francisco for the State Room. I'm looking forward to that. Now, no opponent has been announced for that, but I'll be keeping apprised to it. Now, Wrestling Revolver has announced for their match at DRIP that will take place on March 4th. This is going to be the first time ever these two have ever come across each other. We're talking about Johnny Revolver, or as we know of Johnny Multiple. He takes on Ninja Mac. That's going to be awesome to watch. Now, GCW has announced for an upcoming show that is going to be coming out real soon, later on in February on the 12th at the FSW Arena in Las Vegas. And the show's called Jimmy Lloyd's All Grown Up. So I don't know if this is a self-produced show by him, but I'm looking forward to it. More details about who will be participating will come out soon. Hopefully, we'll get to that. And finally, this was announced recently. Bushiraod as effective on the 30th of January. So today is the 29th, and tomorrow will be the 30th. We will see the lift. They're going to be lifting the ban on vocal cheering. As you guys remember, people were not allowed to cheer. So that's going to be removed. So we're going to have, this is going to be a good step since they haven't been able to cheer for almost 3 years. So it's a good moving forward for New Japan and Stardom. So that's going to be totally great to hear. So I'm looking forward to it. So I think that's pretty much it right now, what we have for our news updates. Let's just call it a day. Okay, hope everybody enjoys this episode. Sorry I took a little longer with New Japan Strong and the Royal Rumble, but I decided to give myself some time to review the whole thing. I didn't have time to see everything from start to finish, but because I was busy doing the Choco Pro and 3 shows with Gambari Pro. But now I got those out of the way. Coming up, we will do AEW Dark Elevation. Haven't decided what else I'll be reviewing. There's still some events I haven't seen from the month of January of this month. As you know, we're getting closer to the end. Right now, we're getting closer to the end of January, so we'll see what happens then. I'll keep you guys apprised to that. As we speak, we still continue on with more Stardom. I will get to those as soon as possible, and we'll go from there. I think that's pretty much it for now, but I will see you guys in the next DWZ time. Same DWZ channel. I must bid all of you adieu. So, Goodbye. Mwah. And have a nice day. Bang.